Rivuu offers unrivaled flexibility because it allows you to customize your approval process, giving you control over user permissions, team structures, and of course your workflow. In this video, we're going to build a workflow from scratch, but you can also use one of our pre-made templates. These 3 templates have been included because they fit the majority of use cases. In-house no graphic designer is perfect for small teams that only need a single approval. This is commonly used by startups or freelance social media managers. In-house with graphic designer also has just a single approval round, but also includes a separate step for those working with a graphic designer or team of designers. The agency workflow is perfect if you require approvals from your own team and then an external approver. This workflow includes 2 rounds of approval, which was created with agencies in mind who often have to sign off on content internally before sending it to a client for final approval before publishing. It's easy to adapt an existing workflow template, and you can even create your own using the Global Workflows menu in the drop-down on the top right. In this video, we're going to build the in-house with graphic designer workflow from scratch. Start by selecting a blank workflow. This always has the first and last steps included by default. So the first step, create content, in which posts are created, and the final step, schedule content, which is our content calendar. Let's add the steps in between. Click to add a new step. Then I'll add a step for my graphic designer to add an image to post created or briefed in the create content step. I'll call it create graphic. I'm going to select the create graphic step type, then choose an icon. Once content has been written and an image uploaded, I want to send it for approval. So I'm going to add another step called review content. Choose this step type and again an icon. If content is approved, it can be scheduled, but if it is rejected, I should collect it somewhere to be reworked. For this workflow, I'm going to create a rejected content step, from which I'll be able to gather my feedback. Now all of my steps have been created, but before I can think about adding my team, I need to define how content can move between them. When a post moves between steps in your workflow, we call it a transition. You could think of transitions as being buttons. So, for example, if we want to send our post from create content to our graphic designer, we can click on the edit transition link, then add a transition called send to graphics. Then select the create graphics step as the destination for our button. Now if we navigate to the create content step itself, we can see our send to graphics transition has been created. So back in our workflow, from our create graphics step, we want to send content for approval. Let's click on edit transitions and then add a transition to send the content for approval and select the destination step as review content. On the review content step itself, we need to add 2 transitions. One approve transition that sends content to schedule content, and one reject transition, which sends content to our rejected content step. Whenever content is sent to the scheduled content step, it is approved to be published. So only send content there that's ready to appear on your social media pages. On the rejected content step, we want to be able to resend amended content for approval. So I'm going to add a send for approval transition going to the review content step. Finally, in our schedule content step itself, I'm going to add an unscheduled transition, so that content once scheduled can be unscheduled and sent to the rejected content step. Now our approval process has been created, it's time to add some users to the steps and assign their permissions. Users can be added individually or in groups. Let's first add our copywriter to the create content step by clicking on the add user icon and selecting John, our copywriter. It's possible to add users to individual transitions too. So if, for example, you wanted to add another transition only accessible to a certain user, you could just add that user to the transition rather than the step. Users added to the entire step will automatically have access to all transitions within that step. Next, we'll add our graphic designer, Katie, to the Create Graphic step in the same way. For our Review Content step in this case, I have two content approvers. If I add both users individually to the step, I will require two separate approvals or rejections before a transition can be completed. However, if I want to give either one of my approvers the power to approve or reject a post without requiring any action from the other, I can add both of those users to a group, then add that group to this stage of the workflow. Groups are a great way to share permissions. I'll add my copywriter and graphic designer also to the rejected content step so that they can both see the approver's feedback. And finally, I'll give access to all of my users to the schedule content step so that they can all view the calendar and unschedule content if needs be. Now our approval process is set up and ready to go. For more useful tutorials, visit rivuu.com.